I will make it absolutely clear. You can ask me absolutely no questions whatsoever, Andrew, because I know absolutely nothing whatsoever. Uh, um, Certainly, apparently, I don't know where Hitler was born, although I actually really do. So, this I wanted to jump on today and do a little short catch up on whatever questions there were, because believe it or not, somebody actually suggested there was something I had said somewhere at some point that was wrong. Uh, God knows I can't believe I only got that once because it happens all the time that I say things that are wrong or misread. Funny, I can't remember the names of anybody I drill with or in my unit, but I can remember the most of the names of Borman's children. I think that's a way of putting it. I might be a little bit maybe I'd be focusing a little bit on the past. Anyway, anyway, um, since I am flying out on Sunday, and we have a fairly good schedule planned. I'm doing a couple of things with Mr. Jones. Ed, I'll bring you in a minute when I'm done talking about absolutely nothing, since I have nothing to talk about. We're going to do some nice cave diving, Mr. Jones. Of course, I'm going to a few other places, uh, some of which I'm not going to tell you because I don't want anyone else to know just yet until I've been there. And of course, we're going to um, one of the two things that's going to come up this autumn is there will be this autumn there'll be two specials that I'll be doing. One on the West Wall that I'm going to be spending some time on. And remember, the West Wall is actually a lot more interesting than you think, because well, you thought that whether the East Wall was interesting, Odegaard and Morgan, and that is and it's far bigger. However, the West Wall was begun construction already in 24, way before Hitler came to power. That makes it really interesting. Of course, the Germans have also spent a good deal of dedication of destroying every bit of it since. But there's still a few things left, and like the V3 site. Thank you, Andrew. Um, yeah, if I tell you where I'm going, we will need the bail money part. I've had enough of being nice. Now there's no more nice. Since the world will probably end this year, I figure I gotta go and go all out and see if I can find it, the thing we are looking for. So anyway, um, yes, we're going to spend quite a bit of time on the West Wall because it's interesting. Also, there's also the V3 gun that was fired on Antwerp. From there, we're going to look at that location, and I'm going to do all the Wunder weapon sites, the V weapon sites in Calais, and I've visited most of them. I want to do a couple of more things. I'm going to see if we can get to drain one of them that is flooded, because it has been flooded um, ever since the war. So even the British investigators were not really able to get into the underground. Therefore, it's always said that there is none. And if there is one, well, then no one has seen it, possibly. So we're gonna try to go do that, and then we're gonna. I am also going to time machine. We need to talk um, after this because I want to do a test. What I've sort of set up for, well, there's a few above ground locations like the DAG. Uh, there's several explosive production plants that were set up in Poland. They were all over the place. There's also one in what's this? I think it's just across the Czechia border into Slovakia. Going to see if I can take a look at one of them. But the one in Poland that you haven't seen, the big duck factory in Poland, you see that episode tomorrow, and literally walk through what is there. That place was absolutely gigantic, which was amazing. Unfortunately, of course, there's not as much left of it by far as there is, or as there was. But the really interesting thing about the one you'll see tomorrow is what I can't show you. That not a whole lot of fun, is it? However, there's still some military munitions production going on in one part of it. That's of course closed off. And then the interesting part was where they made munitions for V1s, V2s, Nebelwerfer, very high yield explosive weapons um, that they were building at that place. When the Germans pulled out 2 days before the Russians were there, they took everything and blew everything of that section up. But there's another DAG factory in Poland, and I'm thinking on the 27th, because I know now that all of it is above ground, we will have reception for the whole time. Timing will be a little bit of a thing, but what I would like to try to do is do a live from there, at least like a beta test to see if it'll work. And that means, and I talked to Time Machine, he will jump on as a moderator in his world back here, and I'll stick in a headset. So, because of course I will be filming and I'll be using my phone going through the whole site, which will take, I have no idea how long it will take. That location is a bit smaller from what I've been told, from what I can see. We'll try to go through that, and then he will pass on the questions to me. That is sort of that is the intention. A whole lot of things can go wrong. First of all, is the time difference. I would have to do it in the early afternoon in Europe for most of you guys, even on the East Coast here in the States, to actually have woken up. So it would be a morning. I think the 27th is a Friday. I think it's a Friday. And so it would be like 8, 9 o'clock in the morning on the East Coast, which means West Coast is not, unless I can pull it a little longer. We are from there. We're driving to Thuringen. So thank you, Russell. Thank you. So thank you guys. I appreciate it. Considering I'll be doing this mad thing on my birthday, so. As usual, you know how I spend my birthdays in strange places, preferably with the radioactive. There's an old South Pole, was that Family Guy episode? I sleep in an oxygen tent, and I believe it gave me sexual powers. I spend my birthdays in a nuclear reactor. So anyway, back to reality. What is it? It is Friday. Thank you, guys. That's kind of what I was thinking, that it was Friday, so that'll be Friday morning here, Friday afternoon there, and then we'll go through it, and then we'll see if it works, and if hell, it'll be a shot, and I'll try to do that with other above ground locations, just because it'll be fun. And since I will be, as soon as we land, we'll be driving straight to meet Mr. Jones in the middle of the Riese sites. So we're going to start in the Riese sites, and I love it when he said we were talking briefly. Yeah, he has some of those things, tunnels I haven't seen, some of the underground work factories, and he would ask me what size my wetsuit was. So I guess we are going not only underground but also underwater on the Riese sites next week. So let's take the assumption that I will actually survive until my birthday. So anyway, so if I do a live from the DAG factory, watch the episode tomorrow. I know you will anyway, because they'll give you sort of a heads up on what it is we will be looking for or looking at, because I'll be going in probably without anybody who knows the site. And there's also the crazy possibility that I will walk in on a place all of a sudden. Hey, Thomas. That I will walk in someday and just go like, holy hell, there's a place here and it's all above ground. Let's do a live right now. Which I'll give you like an hour or two's notice that something crazy is coming. But we will try to do something crazy. And fortunately for me, one of my oldest friends, Anita, was an old friend of mine. She ran my big business when I had it, and has decided to waste her vacation by keeping me company, or keeping me alive, whatever it is. I have no idea why. She's not a historian like us. She's actually a normal, well balanced human being, unlike the degenerates that we are. But she will come help me out and keep me company, and we'll exchange. I'll feature a bunch of food. So it's nice to actually, for the first time, I have somebody who's not doing it all alone. I have gone met. Yes, because this is, Pierre, as I always said, the closest thing I will ever get to the White House, because nobody of sane mind will put me in office. Then again, considering the insanity, maybe somebody else will. Sorry, someone's vacuuming upstairs, which is brilliant, isn't it? Anyway, so that is pretty much what I had to say. We're gonna swing from Czechia, Poland, through Germany, West Wall, probably straight to France. Of course, Metz, Verdun, Calais, and then from Calais it becomes a little bit. Eventually, I will end up back in Austria. As we all know, I have dates with the Austrians. I have still not received an answer to my questions to the dear Austrians. I have, some sort of a dialogue with BIG. One of the gentlemen whose name is on the report, Dr. Pess, have written me, and that they were working on making another report to clarify all these conspiracies and all these crazy ideas. And I hope, work with me and my sense of humor here, that I have not managed to offend everybody, because I actually wrote him that if the same people who wrote the first report writes another report to dispel even more of the stories they were trying to dispel with the first one, they will not be successful. The whole problem is that the people who now works for the government entities, if they are hired by them to write a report to state something, come on, we all know how this goes. If you're in office, you hire somebody to write a report to support your state of mind. I'm not saying that's what they're doing, because some of them are honorable historians. Most of them I haven't met, so I certainly can't vouch for where their standpoints are. But if you don't believe the first report or have problems with it, if the same people write another one, you're not really going to be overly impressed with whatever their findings are. And I told them that the only way for this to actually to get to the bottom of what really took place is by somebody completely independent doing it and presenting it, and open the doors, the archives, the photos would go a long way. And if they can write all the text they want, unless we actually see these things and answer questions, no report they're gonna come up with now is gonna make any difference. And I think you will. I hope you will agree with me that I'm not entirely wrong with that. No, girl. There's not a girlfriend. We're not dating at all. We've been friends for 20 years, and she used to run my business. Quants, possibly, possibly. It's entirely possible. We'll go there to this very closed entity. It's entirely possible. I'm probably going to go by and see how I was doing, feed the ducks, those things. Anyway, if any of you guys want to jump on. I don't really have a whole lot else to say, but it is true. It is the world, and that is the world that the powers that be sort of have created, and that's what they don't seem to always understand. That if they hold on to information long enough, if they refuse to answer questions, if they come out with reports that are so lacking, that is what is fueling. And I don't like the word conspiracy theorist, because actually it seems more and more of the conspiracies seems to be turning out to be true. And let's, for the love of Christ, not talk about the WHO thing that's happening next week, because that'll just will make us all stab ourselves. And but if you used to not trust it, well, what I'm trying to say, without coffee or energy drink, which is I'm only trying to say it, if you have now created an environment where government entities, government bodies, government organizations are not trusted, which they have generated themselves, then having the same bodies write more, say more, talk more is really not going to make any difference. And when people expend so many effort, so many resources trying to cover something up or destroy something or keep us from it, for them to it's impossible at this point for them to turn around and go like, oh, but no, let's clarify, you're really wrong, there's really nothing to see here. And actually that's one of the interesting things he wrote. So there's from memory, I recall the sentence was to the effect of, I disagree with you that there's no truth to any of the rumors or conspiracies. However, I agree the sites need more investigation. Well, I'm sorry, which is it? But I'm glad that he was not completely off board on that. So I am still hopeful, especially because my dear soon to be second or third best friend from the Air Force archives have just sent me 70 or some 3 pages of stuff on our Dr. Kamla and special research sites. I literally just got it 5 minutes ago, so I have not actually had time to go through it. And I have no idea what it says. But the fact that I'm getting more and more stuff out of the archives, and yes, we are not. I think I have found a lawyer, and we will be dealing with the CIA FOIA request when I get back. So it'll be fun. It'll be fun. Like I said, if we can figure it all out before the world ends, somewhere around, I don't know, December 3rd. I'm just throwing it out. I don't know if anything's happening on December 3rd. All right. So now I will start actually reading. Join Ed here. Hey, Ed, you're on. Not on sound. Where's Ed's sound?
Here it is.
Hey, Ed. There you are. How are you doing, buddy? Well, it was. I would like to go that sleeping in a tent is not what it used to be. But it was.
California.
Huh? Ed, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, just
Can you
just
hear
barely.
me?
Oh, I will turn up the sound completely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
How about
no,
now?
Now I can hear you. Like, it helps if I turn up the sound on my end too. That's why I'm a little beat because a week in a tent. That's all right. It was cold the first night too, but after that it was fine. And I got to meet a new horse. As you've seen, I put the picture up, and I thought it was funny because Jake, the name of the horse, he's 32. He has arthritis. He's missing half his teeth, and he would still try to run away with me.
He's like me.
I'm not going to put a saddle on you. But yeah, no, he's a great horse. He had to get his food mushed. Can't even eat regular hay anymore. And he was still, all right, we're going to go for a little run. I'm like, all right, we'll go. A little trot. All right, we'll go a little faster. So that, no, don't go any faster. I'm like, no, I'm not hearing you now. But no, it was.
Is it a quarter horse?
I think he's just a paint. Just a paint. No, he's not a quarter horse. He's a paint. One of the ladies in our platoon got a quarter horse who used to be a Mexican dancing horse.
Oh, man.
Exactly. First of all, he enormous bloody thing. And I have no idea how many hands he is. He's just a gigantic horse. And whenever his default, whenever he would get anxious or nervous or annoyed, would be to dance. So now you have this gigantic ton-plus horse dancing around, in the middle of formation, in the field, wherever, which makes all the other horses anxious. It was awesome.
Lucky he can't sing.
Well, he was noisy enough that it sounded like he was trying. How have you been, Ed?
Very
Everything
good.
with you?
Very good. Staying out of trouble.
Oh, what's the fun in that?
Anything new? No. Oh, I got a new AR upper for my bunch of lowers.
Oh, what are you building?
I built several. It's 22 I got from Bear Creek Arsenal.
Okay. I was thinking about getting a 9mm 1911. What is that? Rock arms. I don't know if anybody ever fired one. If anybody had one, I would love a review. Anybody? So if anybody has interviews on that, let me know. I know this. I like the 1911.
I had a Taurus 1911 9mm, and it full size, real smooth shooting, easy.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm not a Taurus. I know they made. I didn't know the Taurus. They made the 1911 back then. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just like to. I just want to.
I'm SIG now.
You're SIG. I grew up as a SIG man.
Yeah.
I have starting to like my Glocks. Because I was never, I could never stand the Glocks, but last time I had one on the range, and I hit everything from almost any distance without any effort, and that kind of tends to make you, I like this, and it's not heavy.
Well, if you have a pistol that shoots straight all the time, then the shooter is not that good. A good shooter will take a bad pistol and hit the target.
So hang on. So all right? So what are you saying is I should not have been drinking while I was testing this?
Well, depends on what you're drinking.
It was very windy. I will blame, but no, I actually only brought that one handgun because I was zeroing in a 308. So I just wanted to test my new Glock. I just wanted. Somebody thought I really desperately needed one because he didn't. I'm like, all right, and I was impressed. I was. I I have a couple of Smith and Wessons, but the Glock but I would like to keep everything in a nine. Hang on for a minute. Hey, buddy. Do you need in? Oh, I got it. Got it. I'm at work. I want to keep the same ammunition. I don't want 16 different types of ammunition. I just want to keep it what it is. Andreas, now that I saw Bastogne War Museum, was thinking about going there, but I haven't been. Is that set in an old fortress or an old tunnel? See you later.
Was that Kamala Harris coming in to the Oval Office? Was that Kamala Harris coming into the Oval Office there, checking in?
Well, he was black, but no. I think he identifies as a man.
Oh, okay. Very good.
Well, I'm pretty sure he does. Yes, like I have to work up until I leave because I was gone all of last week. So I've been trying to I've just been trying to. It's a 17 and it's a 9 mil up here. It's just trying to try to plan this. I would like. I'm considering when I'm done in Calais to swing down over Normandy and maybe go to the British Isles if there's time. It also depends a little bit about what I've been nice and asking for some of the permissions to get into some of the other sites. And one thing that's really exciting that Alex was working on are two of the American veterans with the Third Army that were part of the liberation of the Doha Mittelbau tunnels. That they will either come out or we'll do interviews with them and have them tell us about their experience in 1945 of walking through the tunnels. And I'm glad two of them are still alive. So hopefully that's the project we're working on, and that seems to come together. Although I heard that one of the gentlemen had just recently broke his leg, so he is not coming. But then we can shoot it, and we can go to his house and have him talk us through it, which will be, you know, about what he saw back then. Hopefully, he has some photos. Uh, well, at least I got cigars to bring. Um, oh, that's 4 museums in Baston. All right, Andreas, since I will be going, well, I should be able to go to Jersey. That Jersey, I is really where I want to go. Jersey. Um, I really want to, but I really want to make sure I have enough time. Bastogne, I think, will be coming through one way or another anyway, and so that's it. There'll be quite a bit of time in France and quite a bit of time on the West Wall because I found it to be far more interesting. And there's also quite a bit of factories out there. Um, so no one else is jumping on. Um, anyway, so like there was some questions about some of the episodes. One of the interesting questions that I just saw was if the, and I don't know if you have any thoughts on this, Ed. There was a language or word exchange in the First or Second World Wars between the Allied armies, where the British would start adopting American terms, or the Americans would start adopting British terms. That's not really one of the things I looked into a lot, but it seems to me that happened during the wars. Everybody started mixing up the words a little bit as all these soldiers got moved around together. And one of the words was fanny pack, which is one of those things that women always joke around about if men wear them, and always I believe have. But and I don't know if you can, but I wear one because I have my badge and my phone, and over here I have my everything in my fanny pack. You wear gym wear, you don't want to have your wallet, your keys hanging around your pocket, so have something a little bit. It's practical. But somebody was asking if this term dated back to a military world, and that I don't know. I couldn't find the term fanny pack dating much further back than 2003 Webster. Um,
It'll
that's
hold
as
your
far as I
Glock.
go. Say again?
It'll hold your Glock.
No, it won't. It's not that big. It's about the size of my phone, and yeah. No, but it will hold my Walther
Uh,
PPK. Just just.
yeah,
But of course, it's not a quick draw situation with zippers and stuff. But it will. I know those. They call them bum bags over here in the UK. All right, so that all right. So the fanny pack term must have been American, um, which is interesting because usually people wear them in the front, and the fanny is traditionally in the rear. However, I digress.
yeah. Alfred Fanny invented that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Alfred Fanny. He's been around a long time.
Do you think he's the one that he's the one that came from?
Yeah, I think. I don't know. It's a good guess.
It's interesting with the words, where words come from. And another thing that you guys suggested last time, um, Thomas, hold that thought for a minute because yes, I'm going to go on. Yes, good, something I can actually talk about, as opposed to words of which I know nothing, obviously. Um, Let me just hang on. Let me grab you. There you go. Hold on to that. One thing we talked about 1 or 2 or 3 times ago was music. Music of the wars. One of you have suggested that we do an episode about all the music, the songs. Where did it all come from? From all the different war songs, and usually, I guess, the most of them are old drinking stories and so on. So I talked to my composer, Michael, who's actually brilliant. He is a brilliant. He was a conductor from I believe he was 8. So we talked about it. I suggested it to him that we could do something about the history of music, and that talked into that was long, was an hour and a half reply I got to that. So we will be eventually doing something on the history of music, or the military history of music. Um, as I said. All right. So Thomas says first atomic bomb was German. Yes. Okay. And the photos of the possible nuclear test site. Yes. Posted by Stabagau. Yes. Um, he and I are also, uh, if he is the same that we're talking about. What else did you say? Um, I'll give it back to him. Yes, they actually are. We are connecting and talking, he and I, and we will be doing something in Jonastal together, um, because there are photos of the test site. Finally, we dug some up from the aerial surveillance footage in 45. There's just towards the end of the war. There's footage of the site and what the Russians did with it. There has progressively been destruction of buildings ever since, of the buildings, the port buildings, the bunkers, the towers. And if we are looking at the Russian information on on how the Russian Stalin was presented a whole report on how, hey brother, on how on how the Russian Stalin was presented a whole report on how, hey brother, radio show, kill your fees. The Russian Stalin was presented a whole report on how, hey brother, radio show, kill your fees. The Russian Stalin was presented.
I was working on that.
There you go. I was like, oh, well, there it is. So Stalin got a whole report on exactly how this test was set up, how it was elevated, how it was brought in, the prisoners, how it was hanging above ground. And there's more information that have come to this. It actually sounds very much like a similar setup to the first test we did of the first nuclear bomb out in the Manhattan Project did. Although it seemed to be sounded like it was a different design. But he had accurate notes on how this test was set up. And after the war, the German drawings of their projected nuclear bomb, that we've of course been told that they didn't make work, have been was proven. When the Russians looked at it, they went over all the German designs, said yes, these would absolutely work. They said they were valid, and I believe the Russians built one of the German designs and tested it, and it worked fine. Now, the question is then, there's quite a few things that went on in UNSA. There's a lot of witnesses, and somebody that I've been working with on that broke down very nicely exactly how this how the sequence of events and all the witnesses to that detonation. And if you ask me personally, what I think, I was 99% certain they detonated a nuclear device in Jonastal. However, I don't think it was the first. I think they experimented from late 1944 with, if not a nuclear bomb, then at least a dirty bomb or nuclear fused bomb. There's a lot of different ways of skinning a cat. There's a lot of different ways of making a nuclear tipped device. They also
Either way,
worked
fission
with,
was accomplished.
yeah, absolutely. That's another thing. And fission was accomplished by the Germans in '38. Although there are some rumors that the same Germans did it already in '34. Whoever, Otto Hahn, exactly. I just don't have. Now I know, for instance, I know David Irving. He interviewed Otto Hahn and pulled out his diary and found the note in the diary where Otto Hahn had marked the date, the moment, the day that he discovered fission, and that was in '38. So, given that he actually wrote it down, then probably he hadn't noted it in '34 and forgotten about it. Now, I think. Hold down here. So what happened to all these weapons? Raven asking here. No, because the Americans got to them first, and that's the interesting part. The Americans got to all these sites just sometimes a few weeks before they had to hand them over to the Russians, but just enough time to clean up or get whatever the most important stuff was, which is now hiding in some archives somewhere here and there. And the wonderful thing about when I started looking at these events several years ago, and I said, I need to do a documentary series about this because I don't want to write another book about it because no one reads books. Let's do this on video. Let's go to the places. Let's document them. Let's take a look and get more exposure. And with that, a lot more people have started coming to me with information and maps and locations and friends of friends, family of people who were there. I have the son of a OT worker that worked on the Jonastal projects, who was interviewed by Stasi after the war. And when I say interviewed by Stasi, it's not like it was an interview like you and I are doing. It was Stasi is not somebody you wanted to lie to. It's not somebody you wanted to try to pull one over on because that was very bad. But I have the report, which also clearly lays out that there's so much more there than we have been told. And they have, like I said, they spend a lot of time and dedicated effort to cover this up. However, I also hear about soil replacement and all these things you could do, because sooner or later, Jonastal is one of those areas that, as a West German proving ground, is useless because you can't actually fire anything bigger than a 20 mil there. Oh, what are the possibilities? I don't know. Yes, you did. No, don't, Thomas. There is. I do have the coordinate, and you can get there. They just don't like you to. Go away. Not bad. You can still get there. And Battle of the Bulge is probably going to wait for a little while because that's another. Well, maybe. We'll see. Anyway, just finishing off on the Jonastal thing and Rügen as well. But Rügen was on October 3rd, 44 that was tested there, and I have the site and the coordinate. And I figured, well, soil samples is the way to go. Even if they did remove and they did replace a whole lot of these, at least we can go and we can dig, and we can. I have the lab that's ready to receive any soil samples that we find. And with a German gentleman out there, we're gonna meet and talk and exchange information. And I'm going to go over the notes of the reports I just got. And I spent some time over the past month of taking all the information that everybody has been sending me over the past year or since last time. And I can't use a drone over that site because they will not allow drones. It's a military area. Which brings me to what I was saying is Jonastal is useless to the military. You can't shoot anything very large there because it's a large area, but it's not that large. Which means that whatever nuclear device they tested was obviously not a Hiroshima-sized bomb, because 3-4 kilometers away you had people living in any given direction. And I'm doing a rough guesstimate without actually having measured that. But the main camp was not that far away from the test site that you would not have had a Hiroshima-sized bomb there. But it's so big. The Russians, when they had the area during the Cold War, they would literally sit a village over and fire artillery shells over the village into the proving grounds, which is not as scary as you sound. We did the same thing with the Danish military. You would sit with artillery behind you, and you sit under the trajectory, and that's fine. Problem is, West German and liability and all those panic mongers, obviously they can't do something like that. So they can't shoot anything big there. They can't test anything big. It's generally useless for the military. And short of them starting to do something completely different, they should use small arms there now. But sooner or later, this area will be handed over back to the government, and it will be taxable exactly. And it will turn into a natural preserve because every one of these sites was a natural preserve. That means more people are going to start wandering through there. And before they do that, they have done everything they can, as far as I have heard, of sanitizing these places. There is also, outside Jonastal, a vertical launch silo. And I want you to think very careful about the terminology of what I use, a vertical launch silo. In World War II, for probably the American rocket. Just the fact that they built it, and I have photos, I have aerial photographs of that as well. And on this site that I was really hoping that they had at least just covered it up. Well, they did cover it up, and then they built a factory. I think Mercedes makes engines on top of it. So when they cover things up, they do it quite well. But things are still underground. Tunnels are still underground. I think it was in the late 50s, there was a huge sinkhole that opened up in the middle of the proving ground and revealed a whole bunch of underground tunnels, man-made. So, they haven't filled them all in because that would just have been taking too much, but they have covered up all the entrances, but that doesn't mean they're not there. So that's interesting. And I've been plotting over the past month or two, all the coordinates that I have gotten. And so now we'll go and we'll see, and we'll pick up some soil and we'll have it tested and we'll see what happens, which is the next step. And then, of course, we're back to the archives of what the Americans found of documents and the Russians found. The Russians are hesitant to reply, but then it's taken the CIA.
Get any useful minerals?
Say again, Ed?
Did the Germans get any useful minerals or mineable minerals when they were putting in these tunnels?
I don't know, because they haven't really admitted the excavation effort to begin with. I know that when they dug out in sandstone, or they dug out in the Riese sites, the stone or the rock they would usually transport out of the area and use for road construction, bunker construction, whatever else, somewhere else. I don't think the tunnel locations were big in minerals as such, but they were there. That's also something we can judge out of the soil samples of just what was basically in it. Most of that, especially Jonastal, most of that is sandstone, which is full of fossils. And like when I was in the tunnels and I showed you, see the different layers of earth layers, which is quite interesting. Pia, what do you say? That is, I mean, certainly quite a few people must have been there. And on the German side, most of those probably survived the war and absolutely shut up about it, or were shut up about it. and I don't think it's that much to expect. I mean, there was a whole bunch of wet works going on after the war as well, where a lot of mostly SS guys were just outright shot here or there by hit teams around if they were trying to hide or if they've been let go. There was a lot of revenge going on. So for a bunch of scientists to be either cowed to silence or outright killed to silence them, I don't think that is by any means a stretch of any imagination at all. Raymond, sinkholes is a weird thing. Usually associated with some event. Which
Well, we got sinkholes around here, but that's because everything is mined, and I do mean everything. You got to see the Army Corps of Engineers map that's underneath my feet.
So at any moment now, you could slide into the abyss and we'll never see you again.
Pretty much. I mean, I've always wanted an Earth home, but this is going to get ridiculous really quick.
Is that little village that under the coal mine, is that still on fire?
Yes, in Pennsylvania, yeah, it's still burning.
Great. Yeah, that started with them trying to burn a whole bunch of old tires or something stupid, didn't it?
Just like anything else, yeah.
Yeah, most things start with a bad idea these days. So a Danish question. Yes, the tunnels in Gusen or the tunnel. What am I going to? Hang on. I'm missing something. Am I going to get into other tunnels in Jonostal? Come on, what a silly question. Anyway, or the tunnels in Gusen. You ask me questions you already know the answer to. Sandstone is not good for tunnels. Well, there are a couple of different types of sandstone. Goosen tunnels were sandstone too, and Lord knows they're still kicking. Hang on for a minute. Will you all excuse me?
Actually, they're in really good shape.
Hang on for a minute, I'm good.
Kamala Harris just came into the. Hey, how are you doing? Yeah, Kamala just came into the Oval Office.
No, I'm telling you, it can't be Kamala. It's got to be Monica Lewinsky.
Hang on for a second, everybody.
Put the cigars away. Oop. She's back.
Cleanup time.
Yeah. Where do you live at?
Oh, I basically live in the arsehole of the Midwest. I'm in Illinois.
The Midwest. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm stuck down here in Florida.
Oh, hey, I would. You know what? My wife keeps trying to get me. She's like, you know what? We should just move to Florida. And I was like, no. Why? Is it because I don't like hurricanes, sinkholes, and alligators? It's just not my thing.
Yeah, but it's better than them liberals.
You're telling me. I'll tell you what. It was the first time in the history. You know, I'm 41 years old, and the first time that this county ever voted Republican was 3 years ago, or 2016. Excuse me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy on these politics.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, DeSantis has been doing pretty good.
Yeah, I kind of actually hope that he runs for president at some point.
Yeah, I would like a DeSantis Trump or Trump DeSantis. But
that'd be interesting.
Well, that would freak everybody out. Vice President Trump. Put those two together.
Thanks, Andrew.
Holy moly.
Yeah. Like I was talking with Andrew a little bit ago. Did you know that the Patent Museum in Fort Knox, Kentucky, actually makes a bourbon, a proprietary blend from Patent?
No, I'll be darned.
Yep. A friend of mine conned me into going down to
Wow.
down to Kentucky to do some camping and shooting, and we saw the Patent Museum. I'm like, that's the one place I haven't been to yet. We get there and hey, what's going on? But we went down there and I ended up with a bottle. Was that your stunt double?
Is it pretty mellow? Ooh, the boss is back. Straighten up.
No, he muted us.
Oh my God. He's taking a break. He's probably a potty break.
Yeah, possible.
Yeah, he's
No,
got
it
a
does not
staff
come
meeting.
with. Yeah, no, it does not come with aviator glasses, but it is really good. Anyhow, since we talked about tunnels and I mentioned the mines and everything else like that around here, and well, like he said, there's certain things that they do that don't make sense. Well, one of the documentaries I've been working on that I'm trying to get him involved with is it's a bomb factory that was here not 20 minutes from my home. And there's not much of it left, but there's a lot of information and some bunkers and stuff like that. So I'm trying to get him involved. But one of the things that they did after the war, which was inherently stupid on the part of the country, the government, was to dig 5 burn beds. And they dug them about 60 feet deep. They pushed in everything, including trucks, bombs, you name it. And they set it all on fire. And once everything stopped exploding and the fire went out, they just threw dirt over it. The problem with that is one of the areas is where they made mercury switches.
That's nice. And a lot of that stuff doesn't go off when they try to detonate it.
Right. Well, it wasn't about a decade ago or so. One of the farmers that owns a piece of the property that got reclaimed was plowing his field, and mortars had actually surfaced. So they had to call the Army Corps of Engineers, come out again. They had to get rid of them, and they had to basically do a secondary cleanup of the area. And they said now it's clean, but I disagree because there's one that's down by a river. And we went down there, and just walking through, I could drag my feet into the dirt and the sand on the edge of the river there, and come up with first we come up with these little concentric rings, and we found out those were the rings from the tubes that they shipped the mortars in. And at one point, we actually found mortar fins.
Wow.
A Peabody cooler?
That's crazy.
I'm reading what Raymond said. He said, I had a large Peabody cooler bag that was from a relative who worked there that died before I was born. Well, Raymond, Peabody coal mine is actually what I'm sitting on right now. Peabody number 58. Peabody number 1 is 2 miles to the west of me. And there's not much left of either one of them. Actually, a friend of mine owns the old the area where the mine main shaft and everything once was, and there's still a couple buildings and even some equipment that's been there since the mine shut down. I wonder how long he's going to be gone. That's a little bright.
He's off. Yeah, the only thing dangerous near me is the Cecil Field, the Navy bombing range in the Ocala Forest. We're about 10 miles from it.
Oh, you see, I heard about that, but I haven't really looked it up to find much information on it. Sorry, I'm trying to adjust my microphone here. It's driving me insane. Is that better? Can you hear me better?
Yeah. Yeah, you sound good.
Good deal.
You're good. Nail it. Yeah, they've been around since the Second World War, and Navy uses it quite often.
Yeah, so I had another friend of mine that just moved down there was mentioning it. He's kind of a history buff as well. Him and I went to Chanute Air Force Base not long, about 2 years ago, and kind of wandered around there. Part of it's still being used for stuff, but most of it's abandoned. I mean, there's the fire trucks and everything from the Air Force and everything still down there.
Yeah, Florida used to have some pretty good ranges. Eglin up in the Panhandle, they've got a big range there they use, and I think they designed the bunker buster there. That I think they modified some old cannon barrels for penetrators, and they worked out pretty good. I think they had dropped them from the C-130s, or at least something that had to be at least that big to drop them.
Don't worry, Rob. It's not what you think it is. Rob was asking what I was smoking. I assure you it's just nicotine.
It's prescribed. Yeah.
Well, Andrew, I come up there every September I come up north for World War II.
All right.
Oh, he's back. He's back.
What am I missing?
Straight now.
So we were talking about finding a replacement since you took off. There must be a leader.
Yeah.
It's one of those things.
Why didn't you put Kamala's picture up?
Huh?
You should have put Kamala's picture up while you're gone.
Ooh. I mean,
no. See, that's an. If he put that photo up, it'd be instant ED for anybody watching. We don't want to do that to him.
Did you turn this into a political commentary while I was gone?
Negative.
Oh,
I thought about it, but no.
I mean, we were blowing things up. I will say one thing. I know I said this is not a political comment on our political leadership, but I will say one thing about Kamala Harris. Whenever she talks, it reminds me of a whole bunch of my favorite adult stars talking. And I just wish she would be the one to say, "Oh dear, where did all you plumbers come from?" She has that voice.
Are you trying to say that the vice president's a gangbanger?
No. This is in no reflection. It's just the sound that she sounds rather adult and erotic when she speaks. Let me.
Well, yeah. She was adult and erotic. That's how she got her job.
That's what. Yeah. Well, I mean. Yes, but neither one of them were married, so it's perfectly okay to sleep with
I'll go with the erotic.
Neurotic? Anyway.
Back to work, sir.
I'm just saying, if this political thing doesn't work out for her, there may be a way of she can make money in narrating adult entertainment. I'm just saying.
She could be the fluffer.
Oh, God. Well, that's a physical activity. I don't think politicians.
Okay, we got to get back to what we're supposed to be doing here.
Yes, the lovely war.
Yes, that stuff.
uh, uh, yeah, I don't know why there's dialogue in erotic film. Never mind. I was going back
Well,
to.
yeah. See, now you just started it. Now I got to finish this one. See, women always say that men don't like romantic movies. Bullshit. We love them. It's called porno. It cuts out the middleman. We don't have to worry about all the talking parts. We just get right to the good stuff.
That's why I don't understand why there is a talking part. I mean, it's like, where's the time when I want to hear somebody's life story?
Oh,
when there's a football team standing behind, that's not it.
That's not the sound I want to hear. Let's put it that way.
Really?
Hi, Crystal. How are you?
The last time I watched a porno movie,
You came in at the
you
wrong
could hear
time.
the director in the back. You could hear the director in the back giving them freaking orders. Harder, more,
Ram that thing, do it.
And I sit there and was laughing so hard I fell off the damn couch.
I always thought, and I haven't, I honest to God, I haven't actually done it yet because apparently I've been too busy. But watching the making of adult movies, it seems like it would be a lot of fun on one hand, and on the other hand, it would completely ruin the experience for anybody else.
I'd probably sit there and puke.
Not going to argue with that.
Like, really? How in the hell can you get in that position?
On this episode of Lost Battlefields, we go into the adult entertainment industry.
Well, honestly, this is probably less offensive to some than these other things we might be covering. So
this is true.
Yeah, I agree.
Look, you want to talk about the HWO? No, talk about porn. Talk about porn.
Yeah. We don't need to go into that. We don't need to go into Carl.
Don't need to go into what?
He knows what I'm saying. The head guy from the WHO.
Yes, it's
okay.
How many
our soon-to-be dark overlord.
How many tunnels in Ukraine?
Oh, Tino,
How many tunnels in Ukraine?
They set a new drag bike record this weekend.
Hang on for a minute. Ed, did you ask how many tunnels I found totally, or?
I wondering how many tunnels were in Ukraine.
In Ukraine, you know what? That's very interesting, and because I wanted to go look at what the Germans were doing there, and apparently most of what they're doing was fighting. I started looking into it. There was some underground airplane shelters that were built, underground bunkers where they would wheel up the planes on a ramp, just like they did at the Remac. Actual tunnels, there wasn't a whole lot of construction. There wasn't like factories as such. So what I'm trying to say is I haven't found any in the same way. Czechoslovakia had quite a few, or had a few. Ukraine, it was mostly a battlefield, and I actually don't know how much production continued in Ukraine if they moved production in. I know they wanted to Germanize some areas by sending Tyrolean Germans and other Germans to these areas, but to actually have set up production facilities and underground as well. The reason they did it in Germany was because of the aerial bombing by the British and Americans. And the Russian Air Force, although growing, it wasn't carpet bombing things the same way. So there wasn't the same threat, but there also wasn't the same factories for them to bomb. It was more a war going on than a production. And if anybody actually have anything on war production in the Ukraine during that time, or tunnels? Okay, that's not entirely true. There are actually tunnels surrounding Kiev that I've actually been in that were built, I think, before the war, for quite a while before. There are fortresses with old forts around. There are some of the big installations, the Gorky cannon batteries, that are connected by tunnels. So there are some, but in production U relocations, I haven't found or heard or seen much about that from the Ukraine. Uh,
It just depends on the area, basically, because for the most part, what they were worried about there was oil. They weren't really worried about about tunnels or anything else like that.
Yeah, and the oil was a problem because the Russians had really very well destroyed all the wells.
Andrew's got an idea for you. He says porn might fund more travels quicker. You're gonna have to go to Chippendales, bud.
Hey, we were all young and had to pay for college. Okay. Yes, Odessa, exactly.
As long as you weren't talking about pegging.
I'm just in the State Guard, Raymond. I mean, well, why are we going back to the adult thoughts? I don't know. Okay, so it's a funny story. Okay, I may have known somebody. It's entirely hypothetical. I may have known a woman per se, who was part of a group that may possibly have done adult entertainment like events, is specifically in old German bunkers and uniforms. But I can say it's been a long time. I get old. I forget these things.
Oh no, don't stop now. You got my attention.
Hold on a second. Hey, Brian in the Wales, did you see what Spider-Man did this weekend on the drag strip? Brian and I watched the same motorcycle racing.
Oh, I'm sorry, because when you said drag strip and I'm in LA, that's something completely different.
Yeah.
Well, he was on a bike, nitrous bike. He did 268 miles an hour on that bike.
Spider-Man? Did you say Spider-Man?
Yep. Yeah, he ran 268.4 miles an hour.
They just showed it on FS2.
Are you talking about the actor Muppet that plays Spider-Man?
No. This is
a bike rider,
drag racer that everybody calls Spider-Man.
Okay, because again, I'm in LA. You need to qualify these. I don't live in the real world. I live in LA, so I was just like, yes, I know. But
I've been trying to get into.
Well, I need a job there. I just kept thinking like that an actor doing something that interesting. The only one I could think about would do that with Tom Cruise.
No.
He did drive that one car.
He was hurt all last year. He wasn't at the man races when I was there, but I watched Jack on Cycle Drag, and he's good friends with Jack. But 268 miles an hour, that's fast.
That's all right. They decided to screw with one of the IndyCar drivers. Every one of them travels with those blow up not dolls. Don't give me no. The hot tubs, the blow up hot tubs, the portable ones. And he came back. It started to rain, so they had to take everybody off the track. And he comes back to go jump in his hot tub, and it was full of Orbeez.
Oh my God!
I was thinking about blow up hot tub as something for drill, but I don't know where I would get the hot water. So I figured, never mind.
Oh, if I'm not mistaken, in 2 days it's your birthday, Tino.
You are mistaken.
Birthday. Yeah, I am.
Yes, you are. Not until Friday.
Okay, it's 27th. Well, happy birthday early.
Close enough. Still older.
Oh, thank you. And that's why we thought about doing the live on from the DAG factory on there, because we are done playing with Mr. Jones there, and then we're heading to Jonastal, and it just happens to be a factory right in the middle, and so
Jonastal is where you got that massive radiation reading, right?
Yes.
Are you going back to that area
Oh
and check
yes,
it again?
maybe.
Cool.
Yeah, and that's why can't I remember his name? That I hang on for a minute. Everybody takes interesting names. And where is he?
What that?
He had. I was on his show, or he used that segment. That segment have traveled around the world by now. I will say, and it's interesting. One of the things I can tell you about the site where I was is where the hell is it? I have right here, Clutch Button TV. Come on. There we go.
Is that the one I sent you the clip of?
This gentleman, I think we just mentioned him. Uh, yeah, no, that clip has gone quite around, and it's interesting because right in that area, right across from there, um, by a matter of 20 yards maybe, was a huge Russian dump, trash dump from the time of the Cold War. And I don't know what they dumped, but there was something there. And right up the hill, there were two bunkers linked by an underground tunnel that was supposedly for SS-20 rockets and their launch house. I did not know that.
Literally, I would like to see the SS-20 launch places.
Yeah, that makes two of us. The theory is that the SS-20s were brought out there where, and I do believe, and some of you here are smart enough to remember that. I'm sure there was within the NATO Warsaw Pact, there was a treaty that the Russians were not allowed to put nuclear weapons in East Germany, or and then it of course would also have meant Jonastown. But we all know they did it anyway, both dumb bombs and rockets. Because I've been
No, I
involved.
don't think so.
I've been in several of the missile silos. Well, you saw the episode I did where I went on that wasn't a nuclear silo the Russians had built just across, what was that 40, 50 miles from Berlin towards
I
the
know
east. Today,
they were
Poland.
upset because West Germany had Pershing 1As,
Yeah,
but I never knew of a treaty in Pershing where they could not, because they let us know all the treaties and everything that was going on.
oh God,
I
yeah.
don't remember any of that. The only thing I know is when we deployed the P2, and I was up on Waldheim Cast Site when they came in that night. The Russians were scared to death of them. And I was
And
there during Able Archer that year, 83.
Able Archer.
Ah,
That
yeah,
continued. That was a recurring one.
I was out in the field during Able Archer in 83.
Huh.
I mean, we
Yeah,
had the missiles out and everything. Didn't even know what was going on. Just another field exercise.
That was all the big NATO exercises kept the same name and were yearly recurring.
Yeah, like Reef Forger.
I have an Able Archer sticker somewhere. I don't think I participated in it. I actually don't. I did a couple of NATO maneuvers, but I don't think that was one of them. Doesn't matter.
Pershing was gone by 91.
I seem to hear there had what was some deal done that the Russians weren't supposed to bring them into either Poland or East Germany.
Thank you, Brian.
Either way, I'm sure that's probably something we could, with a little work, figure out. But it doesn't matter. But if they brought them into a place like Jonastown, into the proving grounds, and there were rockets there, which we seem that there's all indications that they were, did they build new silos for them? Or did they use the existing German World War II underground silos for storage?
Now, we were always told that SS-20 were mobile like we were.
Exactly, but you wouldn't have it. It would have to sit under something when it wasn't used. It'd have to be in a hangar or something.
Pershing didn't. We were on the. They were the full missile was on the erector launchers.
But
I
you
mean,
but you wouldn't just have it sitting in a row on the proving grounds. It would have to be in a. The Russians usually use shelters to wheel them in and out of, and also so
no.
we couldn't see them.
The 3 that were on the cast site were on concrete cast pads. Those were
But
the
that was
3 that were mated up and ready to go. Then you had
also
3 on the back airfield.
also the ones in Germany.
Yes.
Huh.
I mean, they weren't the only thing they had to do to the ones on the back airfield was throw the warheads on them. That's the only thing they had to do and erect the launchers, and they were ready to go. Because we were supposed to fire our missile. If the balloon went up, we were supposed to fire our missiles
Yeah.
and then get the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah.
That's why
Oh, absolutely.
none of our trucks were governed. My deuce and a half could haul, but because we had to move the batteries, the ones that was up on cast, the ones they normally would put the warheads on them and pull them out for the second firing. And then I was in ordnance, the maintenance. We had all our trucks always ready, always fueled, ready to line up and get the hell out of Dodge.
Hmm.
Because they said if we didn't, our life expectancy was maybe a
Yeah.
minute. So we had to shoot and go, shoot and go. And Lance was the same way.
But the idea with the SS-20 mobile launchers were that we didn't really know where they were, so we couldn't target them, and that's why they would have to sort of at least keep them camouflaged in some way. I thought. Seem to remember.
Yeah, camouflaging is not fun. 55-foot semi trailer. From what I was told, that they knew where they were.
Yeah.
Okay, because of satellites.
We all knew where everything was, sort of.
Okay.
The only today we don't know where it is.
The only thing we had to be very, very careful of, and we had to let MPs know and our company commanders if we saw a Russian vehicle anywhere in the Heilbronn area, because they weren't supposed to be there. They did the same thing at Mutlagen, in Schwäbisch Gmünd, and in Noyon.
Yes.
Yes, they were, Jeff. We could run diesel or gas.
Speaking of that, I had a buddy of mine that was in the artillery and stuff like that. They were, patrolling the DMZ in Korea. He's like, them little bastards. They said the war is over my ass. He goes, every once in a while you hear ping, ping, because somebody's shooting at your truck.
My husband was up there on that DMZ. That's where he got Korean foot rot. Having to walk through the rice paddies. But I've been up on the Fulda Gap. I sat there with a pair of binoculars watching an East German soldier. I wasn't supposed to be up there, that I didn't know at that time. And that's one of the reasons why they wouldn't let me go to Berlin to see my family, because of my job. They didn't want me on that train.
Yeah.
Especially because you have to ride the train in Class A's, and the biggest thing you see is that Pershing.
Yeah.
Patch, and the patch is back. The patch is back because the 56 field artillery has been reactivated.
Recently?
Last year.
Well, see how long that's going to last. I saw that they're just laying off prosthetics.
It's totally different. They coordinate field artillery firing.
Well, with our budget, because they keep cutting it, we won't have much artillery firing.
One place is not going to be firing on the same place that another one's firing. They coordinate it.
Yeah.
They wear our patch, but they don't have the Pershing tab.
Yeah, I guess they wouldn't have. But in Germany at that time, you also had that whole anti-nuclear movement that had been fueled by Russian money. You had that run around, and the demonstrators and protesters that was assaulting people to do, or Greenpeace, that anything that had anything to do with nuclear in Germany at the time, you had them being picked on. So you also didn't want to signal that as a serviceman or woman.
Normally, that was an Easter weekend. They would lock us up Wednesday before Easter until the next Wednesday. We could not leave cast site, or they couldn't leave. I had to go up on cast site because of my job. The people at the rest of our company are the ones, the batteries at the concern, they were locked up on artillery concern.
Yeah.
But we had to walk around with the steel helmets on and the flak jackets because they said, well, you could be shot. And I was like, oh, lovely, great.
But you had demonstrators outside the base as well from time to time, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Saw them up in Europe. I mean, we've seen them everywhere. And it's really interesting because this whole anti-war crowd, or anti-nuclear movement in Germany is what sort of turned into the Green parties.
Mm-hmm.
And they were all funded by the Russians, which is, I guess, very clever about the enemy's freedom of speech type thing.
That's one of the reasons why Pershing quit going to Grafenwehr to go to the field.
Really?
Yep. That and a couple of vehicle accidents where let's see, a Rector launcher truck caught on fire. One flipped over. Yeah.
Well, I mean, vehicle accidents still account for more military soldiers' casualty than combat, at least in the last two, Iraq and Afghanistan. As far as I remember from the last Humvee class, don't quote me on the numbers, but I do believe that's the case.
In, I believe, the 1970s, we had infantry did our security. Okay, they were the tower rats. They had a mortar platoon that got in a Chinook and went to Graf. The Chinook crashed, killed everyone. I can't remember exactly what year, but I know it was in the 1970s.
Yeah, that seemed to be.
Oh, one other thing.
Yes.
Are you going to go to, how do I pronounce this? Reidel Zip?
Reidel Zip?
Yeah.
Probably not, because I was there.
Okay.
I mean, I was there last time. I filmed everything that there sort of was. I would like to, at some point in time, in a winter setting, go by there with a drone and run over that area. And I will. I'm gonna meet with. I'm gonna have lunch with Schauberger's grandson again. So I am going to Ebensee, which is not far. And since the Braumeister who showed me around, he's an avid Harley guy, I may just stop over and bring him a couple of Harley T-shirts or something. But I'm not planning on going to the site. But I try to go back and do something nice. And
I just think those test benches are interesting.
Yeah, are. There are other places that we may be able to get into, but literally we've been going on for the past month and a half, especially. We've been diligently trying to go over all the different sites that were, and if there's any of them that are still in any which way accessible. And they really have destroyed them a lot. And I think after this trip, there's going to have to be some time spent in archives looking for the hidden boxes, because that's the last photos we're going to get of some of these places that are just not accessible. Just like I said, well, on the West Wall, the West German government had destroyed over 20,000 bunkers since the war, until finally a moratorium was put on that. They spent billions of euros doing this. It was a complete waste of money because they weren't doing anything, just to destroy things that had anything to do with the war. And you see that throughout more and more. It's just inaccessible. So I'm trying to get to the ones we can't. Like, there's a reason why I'll, for some reason, be spending Tuesday in a wetsuit. I don't know what the reason is yet, but you're going to see Lady Blah Blah. You know what? I haven't seen Lady Blah Blah on here for a while. I think she was recovering. She had the flu a couple of weeks ago. We'll see. Usually she jumps on the Friday, so let's see for the episode tomorrow if she doesn't jump on us. There's a Luftwaffe air shelter, a buff down shelter that I really kind of wanted to see. That I told her to wrangle us an entrance to, and but the good thing is I will be getting into the V2 bunker at Sierra, which is the fourth V2 or Vengeance weapon site, where they were supposed to build and launch V1s from, just like they were planning on with the V2s, but it didn't. And that might be a project. There's two things that may be interesting projects coming up for us all. The Sierra bunker is enormous thing, and it's sitting in a small community, so no one's doing. They would like to do a museum there. They would like to make it accessible, do something with it, but it's a small town. They don't really have the money, volunteers, most people. I don't know what the situation is, but I talked to what I think is the council lady. And I said, well, if maybe this is a project we all need to adopt and turn this place into a viable location people can visit. But let me get eyes on it.
Bunker?
It's the V2. I'll put it in
V1
there.
or V2 bunker?
Hang on.
Because I know I sent the coordinates to both of them to you. I think.
Yeah, except it's not V2, it's a V1. I actually misspoke. It is yeah.
Speaking of coordinates, I still need to send you the addresses and everything in Wurzburg, don't I?
Yep.
Yes, you do.
Did you get that
No,
email
I'm so
from me
excited about it now.
about the silos?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
That one. That one may be something that we all maybe sort of want to collectively want to play with and see if we can help these guys turning into something, whatever. And then there's another place. I actually found a secret site that we haven't heard of. That it was one of the UV locations, but and they'll let us in. It was taken over by two brothers who has a champagne company, and they make champagne, and I'm sure that'll be a great visit. So, but there's part of it that's collapsed, and behind it is a circular tunnel that leads to a bigger tunnel system that was built by DSS that they haven't been able to get into. But if I'm looking at the layout, I'm like, again, I need to go there and have a look and see what there is and see how deep underground is so we can scan it. But I have never seen any tunnel systems that are circular. And I chat with Joseph, and if I had said so when I tell him this, that there's a circular bunker, I hope he'll not have another stroke, but he will definitely light up on that one. Because that opens up, nothing is circular. There's no reason whatsoever to have a circular tunnel system. So that is really interesting, and it's on private property and it's covered up. And they are interested in what the hell they're sitting on. So if there's any safe way of doing this, which I don't know yet because I've been there, this may be a job for some of all our Austrian engineers to come figure out what the old Austrian engineers were doing there. And it is, of course, also in Thüringen, not far from Jonathan, just like everything else, which makes it even more interesting.
I did find something else out about Fibinger. I have problems with his name.
Fibinger.
Yeah. He received 2 U.S. Army contracts,
Mm-hmm.
and they were dated 1948, September 22nd of 1948. I found the contract numbers.
Really? What
Yeah.
was he contracted to do?
I'm trying to find the contract. I've got
Fibinger was the engineer that worked for Kamla and built designed all these. And he went
yes,
to America after.
right. He went to New York, but they gave him 2 contracts. And then from 61, where was it? 61 to 66, they built 1,000 silos, an offshoot of the Corps of Engineers.
Was he involved?
I am now this is my thinking that these contract numbers are the contract numbers for the designs for the silos. I just got to find them. I just got to be able to search where I can find, because military still do contracts
Yeah.
with Corps of Engineers. They all have a contract number. You can, if you know that contract number, you can search to find out what it was, or what is going to be built, or what they're needing stuff for.
That
So
is
that's
really
what I'm trying
interesting.
to do now.
Outstanding. I am meeting with Fibinger's son as well. And
Do you want me to email you these numbers, these contract numbers, in case?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the more I can present with him as well, since he and I we don't know each other, and I'm not sure if we have any mutual friends. Although I will put him in contact with Kamno's family, because I think that they might benefit from talking to each other. But that's just between you and me, and Deep Blue Sea doesn't really. The more I can bring out there, we all exchange information. So the more we can all find out, the more we will all figure out. So
I'm still going to
like,
search the Corps of Engineers website and see if I can find what these contracts were for. But I don't know how long
tried to
they
deploy a Fibinger.
store them.
Yeah, at some point in time, they go somewhere else.
Because
Would the
I do
local
have
governments have any information?
the problem is I would have to find
Would the
out.
local governments?
No, because these were all on military bases. All these silos, the land was owned by the U.S. government, and that's where they put the silos out.
But we also do we know everywhere?
Where would they take the?
Well, they built silos in at least 7 different states: Colorado, Nebraska, North and South Dakota, Missouri, Montana, and Wyoming. I have been to the ones at Richards Gabar in Missouri because they had silos there. And that's just right outside Kansas City.
It'd be interesting to see
which
ones
silos
were
are
the
totally
first.
gone now.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
They blew them and covered them?
My husband said they've dismantled them. He was up there last year in October.
Are we talking about a vertical launch silo for ICBM?
Yes.
How the hell do you dismantle that?
You take all the equipment out of it.
And then, but so it's physically still there, unless they.
It's physically still there. I don't know. There is one. I'll have to find out exactly where it is. But there is one. I think it's either in Wyoming or South Dakota that they have totally restored and is open for tours. But I read about it and I didn't write it down, which was my stupid damn fault.
Well, I mean, but let's try to find out what those contracts were, because that's interesting.
Okay.
And I also, the only thing I know which makes it interesting is when when Schreiber, that I talked to, the Austrian engineer for S Consult, when he had met Fiebinger and asked him what he did in America, and the only thing Fiebinger said was he had helped them plan for World War III. I thought that was an interesting way of putting it.
Yeah, because
So
if those contracts are the contracts for him to design the silos, then it might also have exactly where the silos were located at and how
yeah,
much you got paid for it.
yeah, and that should be available, because now we get into budgetary, and I know he was hired to continue to work for the U.S. Army, took over some of the SS contracts, also
Mm-hmm.
to run the fuel site in Ebensee. That they just continued. They just hired the same people to work, and which makes sense, because they know what they're doing and they've been there. So I have no problem with that. But it will be interesting to see what advice he gave them, and what he had knowledge he had gained in Germany, that would make. What did he do during the war that would lead them to think that he could build a better missile silo if he hadn't built any in Germany, which I now seem to see that he did, which has of course also been covered up. Like I
Right.
said, they put a Mercedes factory on top of it. So, but yeah,
So that's going to keep me busy while you're
Find
gone.
out who had the concrete permit.
yeah.
Find out who had the
Wherever,
concrete contract.
okay, that would be wherever the silo is built. I worked construction for United States Corps of Engineers, and it's contracted there where everything is built.
So local contractors,
Right.
just
But
like the
you
German,
also got
yeah.
the
You
contractor
would
I
have
worked with at Fort Benning was from Augusta, Georgia. The one I worked with at Fort Pope, the first one, Gibbs Construction, was out of Harahan, Louisiana, which New Orleans. Okay. The other one that I was office manager was out of Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Yeah,
You have them, they sit there and you can get online and you can find out where the contracts are, when the bid dates are and everything, what you're bidding on, and then you have a group of people at your company that's all they do. But
interesting.
when you sit there
find out
and
who supplied the
it goes
concrete. They
that
had to have
good
local suppliers
possibility
for the
to see.
concrete.
Well, see, these were all built by the Corps of Engineers. And also they can move they have portable
Yep.
concrete plants. I mean, I didn't know until I watched them there was concrete pumping trucks. I learned
And
a
it's
lot
Yeah.
when
interesting.
I worked at that place.
The interesting thing about this would then be is, okay, everywhere that they usually hire local companies to supply whatever building, and I get that. During the war, both World War I and World War II, especially the German, there was talk of special concrete. There was talk of special mixes
Yep.
that would solidify and be different ways. So if you hire, that would be the interesting part. If you then hire a local company to pour a contract on a missile silo, are you giving them a special recipe, or are you just using the same concrete that they would
No.
use? They must have a special mix that
Yes.
they request. And
Yes.
is that
Because you can
classified?
no. A concrete mix
Find
you
out
have to
who
have,
supplied the materials.
well, that would be called for in the drawings of what type specifications. See, when the government pours concrete for a floor, anything, they have a company come out and they do break tests. You have a break test at 1 week, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and then you have another one at 180. They take 4 or 5 testing samples, and it's
Yeah.
not always out of the
Yeah,
same
core sample.
truck. Yeah, core samples. Okay. And at 7 days, if it's not right, you have to tear it up. But
Yeah.
you can only pour military concrete at certain temperatures. It can't be too cold, can't be too hot. If it's too hot, you got to put ice. There's fiber that goes in them. It's just,
Yeah.
it's enough to sit there and bang your head up against a brick wall. And
Yeah.
see,
Tell
I
me
had to
about it.
deal with all the submittals and stuff. But it can be found out if I can find the contracts.
Well,
And I do
um,
have a couple of friends in the Corps of Engineers.
Well,
I did a FOIA request on the Corps engineers for either for Kamala or Phoebe. At this point in time, I can't even remember, but they came up negative on either. Which,
Well, maybe with the contract numbers, I can find out different.
yeah, yeah.
You
I
know,
mean, absolutely. Yeah, go for it.
sometimes you got to skin a cat a different way to find out what you need. So
That's
that's
right.
what I'm going to be working on while you're gone. So if you get an email that's, oh my God, I found it. Plus, maybe I can go out on venting to the Corps of Engineers office and do a little going through theirs
But
because they got
just
microfiche and stuff like that.
just like what William here is writing here, that's exactly how they built the bunkers and everything else during the war. It had to be one long constant pour. And this is where
But
some of the French had a problem where they did it individually and it didn't work.
depends on if you put expansion joints in. They
Well,
put
then it's a deliberate.
expansion joints in roads, but you cannot have those concrete trucks sitting too long, even turning, because something
Yeah.
could happen to that concrete. And those special mixes are not cheap.
No, they're not. And if they're done by the military, they're ended up costing four times as much as they would have in the civilian life.
Yep.
Uh, uh, not
Yeah,
that the
just
government
remember,
overpaid
it's
anything.
always low bid.
Not
Yeah.
always.
It's always low bid.
It's not always. Not
Sometimes it's a low
always.
bid that still ends
have you
up
seen
costing
our
twice.
equipment? It is definitely always low bid.
No. The Corps of Engineers will tell you we had to at Fort Polk we had to bomb proof one side of the commanding general's building. And they told us we could only go through one company. So whatever it was, we had to pay them.
Well, of course, that was the brother-in-law of the friend of the family of whoever did the contract from the government. So that
No, these guys had worked at other places, and I don't think they worked at the Pentagon though. But they worked on other military sites, and their work was that good.
yeah. But it would be interesting to also see if Fiebing brought his whole team over here and actually supervise construction. Especially if he's got contracts and we didn't start building vertical silos until the late 50s or the 50s. Then he must have been around, or he must have done something else. So yeah, absolutely follow up on that because that could be interesting. And
Okay.
when I see his son, then I will see what he says.
Yeah, because
So,
all those, it was the name of the thing that the Corps of Engineers established was Corps of Engineers Ballistic Missile Construction Office. They supervised the construction of all the silos during 1961 to 1966. That's when all the silos were built, and those silos are still in use.
still in
They never,
use.
yes, they're
Oh
still
yeah, I
in
guess
use.
they are. I guess we still have a few sitting around. That's We haven't dismantled all of our military offensive power yet.
No, there's still, well, what is it? What's that? Fort MacArthur near you? Tino. Was it Fort MacArthur that's near you?
Yes.
There's still a Nike site
Yes.
there.
There's a few of those. There's a few of them. I think one of them has a bunch of homeless people living in it. So I used to try to go armed when I visit.
Well, I think the one at Fort MacArthur, you can go through. They have a tour for it and everything else. But that was just
That was
messing around.
that was a sad reality, Tino, when I went to Fresno, of how many homeless people are actually in California.
Yeah, that's a real thing.
Yeah.
Come down here, hon. I can go take you where a bunch of veterans are homeless.
It's same. I have no idea what most of them are out here, but yeah. Jeff, did we get a hypersonic rocket to work? Us,
Yes.
America?
Yes.
I didn't think we did military innovation anymore. Is this when did
They
this
got
happen?
one to work
Hope for the best.
last week.
Best out of 3.
Machine, was it last week or
I
week before last?
I think it was week before last.
I think it Marine Corps, but it was done out in California.
Marine Corps?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Why? What are they doing in missile development?
Well, we can't let the Army have all the fun.
Well, we can't let you have any tanks anymore either.
Marine Corps was at Redstone taking classes on how to repair Hawk missiles.
Was that on the Marine Command?
Yes.
Huh.
Yep.
They ran the Hawk missiles too for ADA.
Oh yeah. But the Hawk systems were delegated pretty much to anybody who needed it for close defense, weren't they? Both Air Force and Army, and I thought.
I think
Jeez,
so.
way to take away our thunder there, man. Come on.
I mean,
But I think Lance. Well, Lance was on.
Wait a
the
minute.
Army.
How is the National Guardsman picking on a Marine? I can't. This doesn't work.
No, I said the Hawk missile system. Didn't they get put at every base or talks or every? But were they on? They weren't on.
Patriot, Hawk was the main ADA weapon after Chaparral,
Right.
and then MLRS and Patriot replaced Hawk, I think.
But Hawk looked cool.
Oh yeah.
Actually, I did an episode for post-war forts of the Danish fort they built, where they had the 2 cannons from the Gneisenau, and they set
The
up
post office doesn't
Hawk
have a missile system.
Yeah, there was a Hawk system set up all around that as well, which was very interesting. But when I get back from Jonas, I'll show you the images of the vertical launch tube setup, and you can sort of see it with the open lid, a little bit like the Russian launch tube, with the launch tubes post-war as well. And you see the missile farms, the roads to it. It looks pretty much like that's what it is. But again, if there's the question. It can move back to the question: what were they? Does that mean the America rocket was done and ready at that time? So there's a lot of those little things of military history that we really haven't heard enough of. The U.S. Postal Office doesn't.
That's why our mail's so slow. We don't have missiles.
And the German World War II Postal Service had a nuclear weapons program, and we can't even get our mail out. Yes.
The more I've looked at the V2 missile and some pictures of the America missile, I'm really shocked, because you know what both those missiles look like? They look like a Pershing. No, they look like a Pershing.
Yeah, but the Pershing was the evolution after the
right.
V2,
it was the evolution, but the Pershing was developed by a German scientist.
Of course it was.
Or
Was
what's his name?
remind me, was the Pershing a 2-stage missile?
Yes.
And that is what the America rocket was. Was a 2-stage. It was basically an upgraded V2.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes perfect sense that they had built the America rocket, and then after the war, we turned it into an official Pershing, based on late wartime design. And that's why they would that's why they would have a missile silos built out there as well, because then it could sit in Thuringia and reach America, London, or Moscow.
Did you
If
know
they had
there
that.
was a Pershing 3 in development?
Yes,
It was a 3-stage rocket.
3-stage rocket.
Yep.
Was there
They
ever a
fired that
2-stage?
sucker from the United States, and it hit it.
Is that what they
Did we
called
ever
the
do
three?
it? Hmm? Did we ever do a 2-stage rocket of anything?
Yeah.
What?
Pershing was a 2-stage.
The first one, right?
All three of
Yeah.
them were.
Yeah,
I thought you said
all of
Pershing
them
3 was a 3-stage.
Pershing 3 was going to be a 3-stage rocket, but it was only in development. It was only in R&D.
Okay.
Pershing 2, the difference between a Pershing 1A and a Pershing 2 was the radar. There was a radar dome on top
No,
of
they
that
didn't.
warhead.
They didn't test these, but they built one. But they did test the Nebelwerfer from the deck of submerged submarines,
Mm-hmm.
and they had made a high explosive, very high yield fuel air bomb warhead for the Nebelwerfer. That
Yeah, when
had worked and could have made it to New York and done some damage.
The man the German who worked for Lockheed Martin was named Arthur Louis Hugo Rudolph. He is the one that managed the development of the Pershing missile and the Saturn V missile. He was also on the Pershing project office.
Oh,
that's why I knew who you were talking about was the
yeah.
But he was working for Lockheed Martin at the time, which
Well,
is
a lot of
now
the Germans
Lockheed
were.
Boeing.
Yeah.
Well, Martin Marietta became Lockheed Martin.
I mean, Rudolph's name has come up a few times.
Yeah, he became project director for Saturn V.
So what did he do during the war? As if I didn't know.
1924, attended Technical College of Berlin with a Bachelor of Science, interested in rocketry. Became operations director at Mittelbau Dora.
Oh, that's what I know. I knew. Oh, bloody hell! We hired him.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
oh
he
dear.
he worked. He sit there and
I know what he
signed his
did.
project in 1956. He was signed as project manager for the Pershing missile. In 54, he became a naturalized citizen. He had to renounce his citizenship in 1983, go back to
Why
Germany
did something bad come up?
because of middle work Dora.
Never.
That's right.
And
I think
he
was,
died in
yeah.
1996 in Hamburg.
I mean, I will say I do think if we're going to if we did what we did and we brought these people over knowing who they were in order to help us with working against the Russians, and we hired them and they worked for us and they did so much work, you know what? You can't take their citizenship away later on just because what we already knew all of a sudden came up. That's, I mean, seriously, either you're going to go with it, then you got to stick with it, or not.
Well, there's a few of them that they did that to.
Yes, there is. And I don't. I mean,
it's like Dannenberg. He was able to stay.
It's just interesting when you say Rudolph, and like I kick around all these different names in the gray matter, and I'm like, which one of them is he? But when you said Dor, I'm like, now I know. Of course I know. That's just all right. Never mind. I
It's
think
like
that
you
is
would like my spot. You would like my spiral notebook, Tino. You really would.
well, we'll get
It's
back to that
nothing
one.
but Operation Paperclip.
Oh yeah, there's a lady that wrote a whole bunch on paperclip that I actually wanted to get on. I'll try to do more interviews when I get back from the world or from Europe. And there's a few people that wrote about those, but like I said, most of the interesting ones didn't come over on paperclip anyway. But
Well,
He said,
remember when I know Machine might remember it, when the last time we were all together, somebody asked about Operation Overcast, Machine.
yeah,
Yeah, I remember when they were asking
That
about it.
is the first name of Operation Paperclip.
that's right.
I went exactly to look what that damn. Every time I typed in Operation Overcast, boom, it came up Paperclip. And then I finally found it where it said that was the original name to bring all them over. And we were still bringing people over on Operation Paperclip in the 1980s.
It's and it's interesting. I
Crystal,
actually
I have
it's
Crystal,
learned so much. Yes, Ed.
I love this one because it's interesting to know why were all these Germans over here from the 50s and some of them even before, and we all have it's cross training, coordination, all that stuff. I'm thinking it was as much for us to learn from them as
Mm-hmm.
it was from them to learn from us.
As
Um,
Tom, the people in the German Luftwaffe that had the Pershing missile would send new people from Germany to the United States to Redstone Arsenal to be trained. Now, I know for a fact, because I went through it, between basic electronics and the Pershing Systems School is over a year. I stayed at Redstone another year because I became permanent party there and worked in maintenance. But down here, it's like if somebody comes from, what was it, Prince Harry, when he learned about the, not Black Hawk, the big Apache helicopter,
mm,
they trained him at they trained him down in Dothan at Fort Rucker.
really? Oh yeah, they would. Yeah.
There is a school on Fort Benning called WinSec, or as we call it, the School of the Julios. It was at one time in Panama. They used to every November protest about it here. At different air bases and Air Force bases, Marine bases. Well, I don't think Marine that much. I've never seen that. But at Army bases and Air Force bases, there are people from NATO countries that they have the equipment. Well, they've got to train their people in repairing it or flying it or moving it or anything. I mean, I knew the guys that went through Persia. Matter of fact, one of them married my best friend in AIT. And you learn a lot. But it took over. I was in school. Okay, I got there in August, went to basic September. Okay, I started basic electronics in September. I did not graduate until June of the next year from school for my MOS.
That's interesting. I mean, it's interesting, and the Germans are still over here, but of course now it's
Mm-hmm.
over. It's just interesting when I keep running into a couple of hundred Air Force and Luftwaffe guys out in Vegas, um, knowing the closest air base from there. I will say one thing because I'm actually going to leave you soon. Not that I haven't been doing that on and off all day because I actually have to get something done because I'm leaving soon. However, if we really want to dive into something interesting, it would be dustbin. I would like to know what Germans went through dustbin in 1945. That was
Operation Dustbin.
not really operation. It was the clearinghouse where all the German high ranking prisoners went to. If they were high profile or they knew something special, technical specialists, like Kamala probably went through dustbin, unless he went out a completely different way. So I guess it would be an operation set up in Germany where they processed all these guys through, and that's another bit of these things that haven't been talked about much.
Okay, guys, you know what I'll be doing for the next month? I am going to have to go. I've got
Hey,
to go this
Crystal.
weekend and buy a new notebook. I need a 3.5 incher.
I will suggest we start writing things down digitally and then backing up on
Crystal.
3, 4 hard drives.
Sir,
Does the CIA have a copy of your notebook yet?
no, they're not going to get a copy of it either.
Oh, okay.
You break into my house, either my dogs eat you or I shoot you. In Alabama, there's a nice little
Well,
law
keep it
called
safe.
Stand Your Ground. Oh, I will. I promise you. I thought I lost it,
Yeah, we
and I
have-
tore
Yeah, we
my
have that in
room
Florida
apart.
too.
I tore my room apart trying to find it, and I finally found it. But I went and bought, what is it, tab system that's 12, and I've got Operation Paperclip, Nazi Criminals. I have one tab just for Kamler.
So that's why I make it easy. I just upload everything that I have so everyone else can copy it. So everything's out there.
Well,
Anyway,
Crystal,
I
I don't
don't
have
Put it on the
know.
cloud, Crystal.
no. I do not put anything on the cloud.
I would
No.
put it on a couple of hard
Oh,
drives.
I have
Anyway,
5 terabytes of hard drive. I think I'm good.
I'm going to run away,
I've
and
got to go get a new
I'll be on the
terabyte.
chat with Doc tomorrow. And Machine, before I leave, let's do a test with see if I can actually make this run over my phone.
Copy.
And then we'll find out what the time difference is. But yeah, I just fun chat. Sorry, I have to leave, but I have to be able to afford doing the nonsense things that I'm doing. You don't have to go anywhere just because I do. I know last time you did. So
No.
One of these days, I'm going to catch Machine's show.
Yeah, may as well.
You sure you want that pain?
Couldn't be worse of being in the Army.
Hey, Paul and Brian did. I broke Brian in real good.
I'm an Aries, honey. I can take care of anything.